Hi, this is Lisa with Quilting Block of the Month Facebook group, and our first block for March is the Milky Way. It is this simple block here. I extended it a little bit more just so that we could do even numbered block squares instead of really weird fractions. So as you can see, I've got an extra row here and an extra row here. Some people have gone ahead and just done this here and they've put a border around it or continue on. But if you're going to do multiples, take that into consideration. And so what you need to do this block is you're going to need 2 strips, whatever color you're wanting to do these little squares here. You'll need one of each color at 1.5 inch by 32 inch long. Makes it easier. We're going to sew these together, then cut them up instead of making a whole bunch of little itty bitty 1.5 inch squares. Then you're going to need 9 3x3s and 4 2.5 by 2.5. Got the 2 here of your solid color or whatever you want to make for one's color. On the other one, you're going to need the same number of 3x3 squares, and you'll need 9 of those, and then you'll need 4 of the 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares. Oops, 2.5 by 2.5. So these pieces you need. Only thing you're going to need is going to be a ruler, and you can either use, a long ruler that you're used to. You can use like a small, like this one's a 4.5 by 4.5, whatever you want to be able to cut along here. I'm going to do something a little bit different, just for this block here. I'm going to change out my pink or my purple color here, and I'm going to do this color here to match my star, just to give a little different look so that you can see how different colors give different results. So again, I'm going to use a yellow and a teal instead of the purple. Everything else is basically exactly the same. I'm just changing one color out on it to give it a different look. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your 2 strips, put them right sides together, and you're going to sew down the long length here a 1/4 inch seam, and then press it open. And go ahead and press towards the dark side. That way when we're nesting, it'll be easier to nest them. As we flip the squares here, we'll be able to nest them into each other. I'll be right back. Okay, I've sewn along the strips. I've pressed it towards the dark side. And now what we're going to do is you can trim off the end here if you need to, if it is not straight. And then you're going to line up your ruler at 1.5 inch mark. Right there. Line up the center and cut. And then you're going to do another one. And then get it all lined up there and cut. And you're going to cut a total of 18 of those. You may have a little extra. If you're anything like me, you get miscut, you do 2 inches instead of 1.5, so you've got a little extra there just in case you make a mistake. I actually have a little bit more because I think I made mine 36 instead of your 32 inch strip. So it's probably, you'll have a little bit left. So you just take those, you set those aside. And now, pretty much, let's see, we need to do our... Okay, after you've cut all of these up and you've got your pieces together, what you're going to do is you're going to turn them opposite like this. You're going to fold them over, nesting your seams right here in the middle, and clip them. And then just go stitch. And you can just lead them through your machine, just stitch 1 inch, or 1/4 inch, down that one, right onto this one, and go through all your pieces. When you're done, you've got them stitched like this. And you're basically going to press them open so that you've got a square that looks like this. Now, when I got stitching them, I didn't do them all the same. So some of them, as you see, are going to be opposite directions. Oops. Got this one here and the blue here, the yellow down, and see how it's folding here versus down. or folding over versus down. Just happened to be the way that instead of stitching this side, I stitched this side. So I had some that way, some that way, and some that way. Does it make a difference? Because they're all going to turn out just like this. So you'll have all of your little squares like this. Press them open. They should all equal your 2.5 inch square, which is the same size as your other little pieces here. Pretty much everything's going to come up to the same size square. And then just press them all open and just set them aside. Or put those aside. Take your 3-inch blocks, squares here. You are going to put them right side together. And we're going to be sewing and making these into half square triangles. Okay, so again, you've got your dark on one side, the right side of your other color, in my case is white. And you're going to take, and you have two options to do this. The simplest one would be to lay a ruler down from corner to corner, draw your line, and then stitch a 1/4 inch on each side. I like to use these 1/4 inch rulers that you basically line up the middle, here to here, and then you just draw a line here, and you draw a line here. I've got this here. Take your root. So you're drawing a line on each side, and there you go. And then you can stitch right down those. The other option would be to just take a ruler, and you can take any ruler, draw from corner to corner, draw you a line. Oops, didn't draw very dark. Draw your line, and then stitch a 1/4 on each side. I like this because I know I'm getting the right size. But this is completely up to you if you want to do that. And then when I do these, I do right on the line or just a tad bit scant onto the inside, because then we're going to cut it, square them up, and open them up, and you get some half square triangles. So there's two options on how you want to do those. And I'll just go and stitch them up on the machine. Okay. So on these two samples, like this one here, I sewed just right down along the edge or right inside of the double line. And on this one, I sewed a 1/4 inch on both sides of the seam. It's a little hard to see on these colors, but they're basically the same. So then what you're going to do is you're going to just take your rotary cutter and just cut right down the middle. On this one, you'd be just cutting right straight on the line. On this one here, you'd just be going right down between the two lines. Doesn't have to be exact, not a real big issue, because it is in your seam allowance. And so next what I'm going to do is you want to square these up to your 2.5 inch half square triangle, using whatever method you like. Obviously I like this one, because you just line that. I left the red line there for you to see. The stitch line, you just line it up with their dotted line there. Cut and cut, and now I've got my triangle. I will press it open, and then I will trim off all the dog ears on it, so then they look just like this. And always press to the dark side, just so they're going to be dots. And you'll just do that with all of your pieces until you have a whole bunch of half square triangles. If you don't have one of these Quilt in a Day rulers, you can just use a regular ruler and just line up your 1/2 inch over here, 2.5 inch here, your 2.5 inch down there. Make sure your center line, and then you can trim it up, and you just go across. And then obviously all your dog ears, if you use it the other method, or if you did it that way with this square ruler, it would just trim those off. Otherwise, let's just cut those all off so that they're out of our way. And now with our half square triangles, our 2.5 inch square solid pieces, and then our fun little blocks here we just did. We are now ready to lay it out and put it together. Okay, now it's time to put them all the pieces that you've just made together. This is the way it's going to look at our final assembly here. The only difference between the one I'm doing right now and this one was this piece of the block, where I did the teal and the yellow instead of the purple and the yellow. But they're going to line up exactly the same, yellow to yellow, teal to where the purple was. So that kind of helps you when you're going to do yours. So let's just start with these rows by row. First row, we're going to have a half square triangle. Then we're going to put in one of these little four blocks with the yellow towards over there. Then we're going to put another half square triangle pointing up, same way as here. Then we're going to take this block like this, another half square triangle, and then another one of these, so that we've got all of our pieces lined right up in the order. Then our next one here, we're going to start with a solid white. Then we're going to do a half square triangle, a solid block, another half square triangle, a solid white block, oops, light up, and then another half square triangle. Then our third row, we'll do a half square triangle. We'll do another one of these blocks, half square triangle, another one of these, again, that direction. Then we will do another half square triangle, and then another one of these. And then we're going to do the fourth row, which is a solid half square triangle, solid white, half square triangle, a solid blue, and then a half square triangle. In that order, like that. See how we're starting to come together? Kind of slide these over here a little bit. And I'll just fold this down to the next row that we need to do here. So we've got a half square triangle down. We got a 4 square, half square triangle, 4 square, half square triangle, 4 square, and then our last row, which is going to be a solid, a half square triangle, a solid, a half square triangle, a solid, and I think I've got one messed up here. Yep. That one needs to go that direction. Right? Nope. That way. There we go. Have that one out of whack. So you can kind of see you've got one star here, got a star here, got a star here, star here, and you've got a star of ones over here, and a star of one here at the bottom. And I don't know if you can see, but by putting the blue here, it kind of gives my blue kind of that little hook. Which if you did the yellow as white as well, you could have your white with a hook as well. And so it'd kind of have a little different look. I just wanted to see how this one would look doing it in that colors. And so now when I would go to sew this together, I would do these in three sets of rows. This row here, and this row. I would sew these two pieces together. These two, and all the way down. Do that with this row and this row. Lay it out. Make sure everything's still the same. Then I would stitch these two rows, these two sections together. Make sure it's still laid out right. And then I would add the third section. And then I would do the rows up and down. So let me go ahead and get started on that first row, this row over here, this row, and this row, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've sewn these blocks all together, and I chain pieced them so they're all still attached. That way they're less likely to get messed up. Same with this row. I've still got my stars like they should be. Third row, still got my stars the way they should be. The beginning of the ones over here are in the right order. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply take this piece, flip it over, and pin it down, each piece down, just so that I keep them lined up easier as I go. And I'll just sew, again, my 1/4 inch of seam allowance all the way down. Okay, now I've sewn these blocks here together, still keeping my stars in the correct order that they should be. And so I'm just going to take this one, going to flip it over. Like I said, I'll just clip those pieces there together just to keep them easier as I feed it through the machine and stitch that side. Okay, now I've got that third section attached. And so now what I'm going to do is I make sure, again, my stars are in the correct order, the way they need to go. I've got all my points curved the way I want them to curve. Everything looks good, because this is the best time to fix it. It's a lot easier to take out 1 or 2 seams than it is to take out 2 seams plus a whole section of another seam. So now just basically turn it over, take it to the iron, and you're going to press it and press your seams so that they are going to nest. So you'll have them every other one going up and down your blocks so that they nest in there. And I'll press that and I will be right back. Okay, here I've got all the seams. I've got this one this way, pushed over, pushed out, and out. So when I go to put them together, they will nest. And it's a good time, make sure you got it pressed. And one more time, making sure I've got my stars where I want them in the correct directions. Easier to take it out now than to take out more seams. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll up the bottom row and the top row. And I'm going to pin these and I'm going to stitch them. Going to pin these, I'm going to stitch them, and I will fold the middle rows, pin them, and stitch them all 1/4 inches, and then I will be back. Okay, I've sewn the first 2 rows together, I've got the second 2 rows together, and the third 2 rows together. Went ahead and pressed those seams open. I went ahead and pressed them towards the pieces that don't have the little squares on them, just to reduce the bulk a little bit. You can press them open if you choose. Now fold these over here and I will pin them and match up my seams where they're nested together, pin it across, and then I'll go ahead and stitch a 1/4 inch here, open it up, fold the top down, match up again your seams, make sure they're nested, sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance along here, and then open it up and press it open. Okay, I've sewn the top rows to the middle and the bottom rows to the middle, and I've gone ahead and pressed them all open, or press the seams, and like I said, I kind of pushed them so they're reducing the bulk a little bit. Some places I didn't quite get them there, but just press it the way that you feel comfortable if that's opening the seams up. If you're making this block and you want to continue it on with more, as I had said in the intro, to make it easier for us to do a 12 by 12 block, I added an extra row at the top and the bottom. If you want to do another block, you would simply take off this one side here, so that you have this block here that would then continue on with your stars as they would. And again, you do the same thing at the bottom as well, if you're adding rows to the bottom, because I added this row here again. And so you just simply could just take that row off and add your block down below. And so we've got two different colors here of the Milky Way Block of the Month. Please take the time and post your pictures of your blocks on our Facebook group so we can all enjoy and see how beautiful they're going to be.